Maxime Prevoteaux is a designer with Volvo. We've got the EX30 here, and I'm going to ask him a whole bunch of questions as to why they did things the way they did.
Absolutely.
Okay, so start out just the front end.
Yes.
Very clean, very nice. You know,
Yeah.
some EV front ends, they get very complicated and everything. It looks like you wanted a very clean look.
Absolutely, yeah. I think one thing that is really important for us at Volvo and in Scandinavia in general, it's the principle of Scandinavian design. And when we talk about Scandinavian design, we talk about an honest design. So as you mentioned yourself, you know, it's a true EV. We don't need as much air, so we don't have the need for a grille. And the main thing is that there we designed the fronts to really showcase the Volvo emblem. So we do have this canvas of a shield. And another part of the Scandinavian design is the form follows function. So that's something that is extremely, extremely important for us. And in that sense, to create the character of the car, we do have this black band that really defines this shield. And we integrated the pass sensors, we integrated the air curtain, and then it leads to the Thor hammer on each side. So that's really sealed.
So for people who don't know
Yes.
that, explain the Thor hammer.
So the Thor hammer is a very strong brand DNA for Volvo.
And you're talking this right here.
We're talking about the graphic of the headlight. And in this setup, we also do have the low and high beam on each side. So even when those are on, we still have a very strong graphics that reads as a hammer. And Thor hammer, of course, comes from the mythology of, you know, the Nordic mythology, the famous hammers. And we thought that was something that really, really does fit our brand and our image.
You talked about how you're using this black element to help break up the front end.
Yeah.
One thing that I found, I hope the camera,
Yeah.
these strakes, or I'm not sure what you call them, that give a nice texture, a nice definition to it.
Yeah, it's a really good point to that detail. So we tried also in the exterior to bring some more texture, some more visual punch to the car. And one way of doing this is that we designed these graphics to really run around the car. So we do have a 360 read.
So this carries all down the side of the car.
This carries on the side and on the rear.
Yeah.
And one great thing to know about this one is actually that it's not painted. We push the sustainability aspect to the exterior as well. So we do polish the end of the tool. So we do have a grain that is visible on the outside, and inside the graphic we have a more glossy finish. So we do not need to paint. The bumpers and the parts are recyclable. So it's another way of...
You're getting a design element for free.
Exactly, precisely. So, and that's what we try to do with the whole car actually, to really, really push design and to think through on all parts of the vehicle.
Okay, and then talk about these scallops in the hood too.
Yes.
Why are they there?
So, how we treat every Volvo, we always start with a strong monolithic volume. And out of that volume, we carved out surfaces, we shaved off surfaces. That gives us the impression of depth and density. So that's a very strong aspect that communicates safety, but in a form. It's really hard to communicate safety in a form, right? But that's one way that we are actually doing it. And on top of giving it a very strong and good character, it planted each wheel on the ground. So when you see it from the front, you get a really good stance and the car feels extremely stable. Yeah.
And you mentioned the air curtains. That's this right here, right?
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
just nicely integrated them.
Yeah, so actually, especially on car of this segment and this type, it's even more important to have the air trying to guide the air and flow as much as possible. So we have the air flow from the front into this air curtain and goes out outside
here,
the wheel.
So
Exactly.
to prevent turbulence. No?
Exactly. Yes. And then the air will flow. And now we have 20-inch wheel with aero inserts.
And a very aerodynamic wheel cover too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this helps us both for efficiency, lightweight, and in an EV, it's very, very important. You know, that translates into range and into energy consumption.
One more thing about the hood. You've got this wrap over, so the cut lines are on the
Yes.
side.
Yeah.
You did that to eliminate cut lines on top, or why did you go this way?
This also can be seen actually as a Volvo element. We do have that. We do have this clamshell hole on the XC40, and we thought it was a good highlight, you know, to our previous cars.
And on the side, there's a lot of action going on here.
Yes.
Even though it looks overall very simple.
Yes.
Again, you've got these scallops,
Yeah.
you've got the design element in the
Yes.
rocker panel,
Yeah.
and will you take it from there? Tell us more about what's going on the side here.
Yeah, so the main message for the side was to look at the car and to emphasize this message that it is a small Volvo that does big thing. And that way we actually push the wheel on each corner. So the front and the rear overhang are fairly similar size. And
very short.
And very short, exactly. So that is also another way of communicating electric vehicle. And then by pushing the wheel on the whole corner, we emphasize the visual space of the interior. So that's one big element. And that makes the car even bigger than it is in the impression. But we wanted to still, though, keep things fairly simple, but give it a strong SUV element. So that's why also we have this kick in the side that kind of brings and elevates the car from the ground. So that gives us this more, let's say, a bit more sporty and a bit more elevated visual expression.
You've also got these, I'll call them eyebrows, I don't know what you
Yeah.
call them, over the front and the rear wheels.
Yes.
And again, to emphasize more of the wheels, the SUV strength, or why?
Exactly, yes, that's exactly to this point. So actually those wheel arch features, we call them sickle at Volvo. And those sickles actually really help planting the wheel on the ground. So it gives the car a really, really great stance. And especially pushing the car on the wheel on each corner, I think it really gives this stable impression to the stance of the car.
And now I know there's different paint jobs on different
Yes.
ones, but you went with a black roof, sort of a floating roof.
Yes.
Why?
It's again, I think it's all about the graphics, right? I mean, and when you see that, and when you see how this line flows, it gives this a bit more sporty expression, but at the same time we have something very, very solid above the rear wheel, and this graphical cut brings something a bit more playful and creative, and it visually helps to reduce the visual part of the body
mass,
side,
the mass,
exactly,
right.
but keeping it fairly sporty.
Real good. Let's take a look at the back too, because again, very interesting how you've got these upper turn signal taillights
Yeah.
that also pick up again on the lower end.
Yeah, exactly. So as you've seen in the front, in the Thor hammer, we introduced the segmentation the first time with the EX90. And I think it's important also for us for our cars to kind of talk to each other, but have their unique features. So there we introduced the segmentation on the taillight, the vertical taillight, which is a very strong part of our Volvo heritage, right? I think if we see very strong vertical taillight, we instantly recognize it as a Volvo. And on top of that, we do have the C shape, and we continue the segmentation into this graphical element. Having them both separated, having the fender line running around and wrapping around the rear, really helps, again, emphasis this stance and planting the car on the ground.
And you're talking about right up here, how
Absolutely, yeah. So
carries around into the rear.
Exactly. So carry this line around, and then having this graphical cut, creating again this shield in the rear this time, and having the Volvo word mark planted on it. So it really helps graphically set the car on the ground.
Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite parts at looking at the rear end of any electric car, no
Yes.
tailpipes, you know, no pipes hanging out
Yes.
the end there. It just looks
Exactly.
so much cleaner that
Yes,
way.
exactly. I mean, and so that's why we can keep the lower bumper fairly clean, integrate the pass sensors, integrate just the things where we have. And I think also one thing that we're really proud of, and following the principle of form full of functions that I mentioned earlier, is to have this push button in this graphical element.
Yeah, push button that opens
Exactly.
the
So
hatch.
we do not have any cutout. It's easy to reach. It's in direct contact for
Right,
for
it may not be
everybody.
too visible on the camera, but it's just a little black button
Exactly.
right there.
Yes. So that's also part of those elements that we have a clean first read. So the car feels very simple but strong. You can quickly understand it. And when you get closer, then you get a second read or even a third read. We have this tiny Volvo detail on the side. We show also the segmentation with these
the Volvo
different
name.
textures. Exactly.
Very small, very
Exactly.
tastefully done. I would say also the EX30 up here.
Exactly.
In the quarter.
It's just the attention to details. It's like get something clean, but then get something a bit more exciting, go into details, look, oh, there is this thing here. So, yeah.
Okay, I've asked you a bunch of questions. What have I missed? Is there anything else to add?
I think we pretty much covered everything, right?
Maxime,
Thank
thank you
you
for
very
your
much,
time.
John.
Very good stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, love it.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.